Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Top of the morning. It's a pleasure to welcome everyone to the first meeting of the Public Utility Commission for calendar year 2014 and ask that you join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first matter on this morning's agenda is the approval of the minutes from the December 5th meeting. And it's a pleasure to recognize Commissioner Whitmer as the editor of the minutes, and we hope that she continues in the prior calendar year tradition of some good reads on the editing of the minutes. Commissioner Whitmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've set the bar right there at the start, huh? So, Mr. Chairman, I have pulled the minutes from the jaws of the polar vortex. And by the way, does anyone else but me think that that should be said in a very deep voice with, ominous music being played in the background, kind of like Rod Serling in the Twilight Zone? But I digress. Mr. Chairman, I have pulled the minutes from the jaws of the polar vortex and submit the December 5th, 2013 public meeting minutes and move that they be approved as submitted.
Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none. The minutes are approved as submitted. And before I welcome Cheryl Walker Davis to commence public meeting here this morning, you set this up rather nicely, Commissioner Whitmer, on polar vortex, to commend our team here at the Commission for the work that they've done over the last 48 hours. I want to recognize in particular Dan Searforce, Darren Gill, and Pam Marchson, one of our new employees, and thank them for the work that they've done. It's truly remarkable, and we commend them. And as I've learned in this job, 3 years ago, I didn't know what a derecho was, and 48 hours ago, I didn't know what a polar vortex was. But I can tell you, I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night, so I know a lot about weather. With that, I'd like to welcome to the podium to begin our public meeting, Ms. Cheryl Walker Davis. Cheryl, good morning and Happy New Year to you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Happy New Year's to you. Happy New Year to you as well. And also, Mr. Chairman, happy belated birthday.
Thank you. It's great being 21 again.
May it please this honorable commission, on behalf of your various offices and bureaus, we present for your consideration and disposition the following agenda items, commencing this morning with the case of special interest appearing on page 1 of the public meeting agenda, that being the annual base rate increase involving Columbia Water Company. For this case, we have a binding poll. Polling sheets have been distributed to the audience, and polling sheets are provided to the commissioners to facilitate the orderly resolution of the issues in this case. The issues appearing on the sheets are not conclusive. They don't contain the full positions of the parties with regard to the various matters presented thereon. The commissioners have made their decisions based upon the full record of this proceeding. With that having been said, we will commence. With the first issue, Penvest Plant and Depreciation Reserve.
Commissioner Brown.
ALJ.
Commissioner Whitmer.
ALJ.
Commissioner Cawley.
ALJ.
Vice Chairman Coleman.
ALJ.
I, too, support the ALJ position. The results on this polling are unanimous for ALJ position.
Issue number 2, Materials and Supplies Inventory.
Commissioner Brown.
ALJ.
Commissioner Whitmer.
ALJ.
Commissioner Cawley.
ALJ.
Vice Chairman Coleman.
ALJ.
I, too, support the ALJ position. Results on this polling are unanimous, 5-0 for the ALJ position.
Issue number 3, Capital Structure, noting your statement, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Brown.
OCA Alternative.
Commissioner Whitmer.
Company.
Commissioner Cawley.
My position is that of the ALJ, who thought that the I&E capital structure is better representative of what actually exists, although the OCA alternative is not far away from it.
Vice Chairman.
So just simply say ALJ.
Okay. Vice Chairman Coleman.
Company.
I, too, support the company position. The polling results for this matter are 3-2 supporting the company position, and this morning I'd like to have entered into the record my statement. Before us this morning for disposition are the exceptions and reply exceptions to the recommended decision for this base rate case filed by Columbia Water. The company claimed a pro forma capital structure of 35.6% long-term debt and 64.4% common equity. This capital structure is virtually identical to the capital structure approved by the Commission in Columbia's 2008 rate case. In that proceeding, the issue of appropriate capital structure was fully litigated by all the parties, and the Commission adopted the company's proposal, concluding that the capital structure was not disproportionately weighted on the equity side of the ledger, and there was no evidence of abuse of managerial discretion. The circumstances in this case are virtually identical and support maintaining the same capital structure. While the evidence in this case supports a capital structure of 35.6% long-term debt and 64.4% common equity, the ratio is at the high end of the range of reasonableness. Should facts and circumstances change, such as equity-heavy capital structures may not be warranted. As such, I would encourage the company to monitor this issue and make adjustments to its capital structure as deemed appropriate. Any further discussion? Hearing none again, the results on this case are 3-2, supporting the company position, noting my statement on capital structure.
Issue number 4, rate of return, noting your motion, Mr. Chairman.
I'd like to have the motion entered into the record as if read in its entirety. The rate of return on common equity is frequently the most material and most contested item in a base rate case proceeding. The Columbia Water rate case is no different, and the setting of ROE is even more critical as our Pennsylvania utilities implement plans to accelerate the much-needed replacement of aging infrastructure. Attracting capital to Pennsylvania at reasonable rates has never been more important to Columbia and its customers and our Commonwealth. By the way, we learned this most recently with the adoption of the PPL rate case proceeding. In this case, the range of ROE recommendation presented by the parties based on a discounted cash flow methodology is a range of 8.25% to 11.35%. Based on my review of the testimony, data, and cost models presented in the case, I believe the evidence in this case supports an ROE finding in a reasonable range of 9.25% to 10.25% using a DCF methodology as the foundation. The equity-heavy structure of this company indicates that a slightly lower ROE is appropriate and justified. However, the small size of the company, its management effectiveness, and the results of the ROE models other than DCF are all reasons to set a higher ROE. Therefore, the ROE in this case should be set at 9.75%. Therefore, I move this morning that the Office of Special Assistants prepare an opinion in order consistent with this motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none. Excuse me, Commissioner Cawley.
Well, the prior vote indicated that we are going to adopt the more equity-rich capital structure. And that being so, I would go for a lower return on equity. Your motion indicates a range would normally be 9.25 to 10.25. If you're going to have a more equity-rich capital structure, I think the rate of return should be moved down more to what the ALJ and INE recommended, which was 9.15%, rather than your motion, which is 9.75%. So that's my position.
So noted. The motion passes 4-1 for the motion I presented here this morning on setting the ROE.
Issue number 5, rate of return premiums.
Commissioner Brown,
ALJ,
Commissioner Whitmer,
ALJ.
Commissioner Cawley,
ALJ.
Vice Chairman Coleman.
ALJ.
I too support the ALJ position.
Mr. Chairman, may I approach the bench?
Please.
Thank you. Continuing with the presentation of items, Mr. Chairman, I believe that on item 5, you were going to call the vote.
This is on rate of return premiums. Commissioner Brown,
ALJ,
Commissioner Whitmer,
ALJ.
Commissioner Cawley,
ALJ.
Vice Chairman Coleman.
ALJ.
I too support the ALJ position.
Issues number 6 through 16, I'd like to identify in omnibus fashion. Those issues pertain to merchandise sales and jobbing revenue, acquisition adjustment, bad debt expense, allocation of pensions and benefits, including health insurance and disability, life insurance to the Marietta Division, pension expense amount, disability and life insurance expense amount, employee recognition, vehicle insurance, workers' compensation insurance, accounting expense, and I have a sticky page here, I apologize. Officers and directors' salaries and fees.
Commissioner Brown,
ALJ,
Commissioner Whitmer,
ALJ.
Commissioner Cawley,
ALJ.
Vice Chairman Coleman.
ALJ.
I too support the ALJ position. This again is referencing all items from items 6 through 16, the unanimous support for the ALJ position.
Issue number 17, continuation of requirement that officers and directors keep hourly timesheets.
Commissioner Brown,
Company,
Commissioner Whitmer,
Company.
Commissioner Cawley,
Company.
Vice Chairman Coleman.
Company.
I too support the company position.
Issue number 18, rate case expense.
Commissioner Brown,
OCA,
Commissioner Whitmer,
OCA.
Commissioner Cawley,
OCA.
Vice Chairman Coleman.
OCA.
I too support the OCA position.
Issue number 19, taxes, noting your statement, Mr. Chairman.
I'd like to have my motion.
Your
motion entered into the record as it read in its entirety. In this case here this morning, the company supported an adjustment to increase income taxes due to a double count of deduction to taxable income related to contribution in aid in construction. Unfortunately, the road to considering this adjustment was not a smooth one, to say the least. The company did not include this adjustment in its filed case, but it raised it in rebuttal testimony and in exceptions. Additionally, the company did not include the adjustment in their adjusted position in their brief and confused many of the issues further by mistakenly suggesting that the ALJ misapplied the effective tax rates in its exemptions. In the recommended decision, the ALJ did not use effective tax rates as is suggested by the company. Instead, he followed the standard practice of applying statutory rates to his adjustments and recommended rate increases. Thus, this is not an issue of misapplication of effective tax rates in developing revenue requirements as the company suggests here this morning, but rather the correction of an error that doubles the effect of a single reduction in taxable income and income taxes. We agree with the Office of Consumer Advocate that Columbia's suggested correction was not computed correctly. To correct the error, income taxes in the ALJ's recommended decision should be increased to reflect the tax effect of increasing taxable income by $214,000.95, thereby removing the double count. Therefore, I move this morning that the Office of Special Assistance prepare an opinion in order consistent with this motion.
Second.
Any discussion, any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, that concludes the binding poll. It should be noted that the Commissioner's statements of position has the effect of a vote, and staff will prepare an order consistent with the results of that vote. Continuing with the presentation of agenda items and matters on behalf of the Bureau of Audits on page 2 of the public meeting agenda, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the recommendation to release the audit report with regard to PECO Energy Company's transmission service charge.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
On behalf of the Bureau of Consumer Services, on page 3, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the staff recommendation with regard to the tentative order and National Fuel Gas Distribution Company's Universal Service and Energy Conservation Plan.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
On behalf of the Office of Special Assistance, commencing on page 4 of the public meeting agenda, it is recommended in omnibus fashion that the Commission adopt all items commencing with the recommendation pertaining to the Pennsylvania Relay Service Advisory Board and continuing with all items on pages 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 through and including the interconnection agreement of Armstrong Telephone North and Verizon Wireless.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
On behalf of the Bureau of Technical Utility Services, commencing on page 14 of the agenda, it is recommended again in omnibus fashion that the Commission adopt all of the items commencing with the Constellation New Energy Gas application for approval to amend its natural gas supplier license, and the remaining recommendations on pages 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 through and including the application of U.S. Energy Consulting Group, LLC.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
On behalf of the Law Bureau, on page 21 of the public meeting agenda, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the recommendation there with regard to RNK Inc., TA RNK Pennsylvania Inc.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
And on behalf of the Office of Administrative Law Judge, in omnibus fashion, it is recommended that the Commission adopt all of the items appearing on page 22 and the first 2 items through and including the investigation involving the CSX crossing RT 0281 in Somerset County.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
We recommend the adoption of ALJ Milillo and Cheskis's recommended decision in the proceeding involving the York Water Company rate increase, noting your oral statement, Mr. Chairman.
So moved.
Second.
I'd like to just briefly say here this morning, I'd like to commend all the parties for reaching a beneficial outcome in this particular case. Thanks to the foresight of the legislature in first passing Act 11 of 2012 and the spirit of cooperation between all the parties in this case, York water and wastewater customers will see real benefits here. This is again under the combined water provision of Act 11. Today's settlement combines a portion of York's water and wastewater revenue requirement, thereby significantly mitigating a 110% rate increase for York wastewater customers, originally proposed as a result of York's acquisition of a troubled wastewater system known as Asbury Point. At the same time, York Water customers will benefit from York Water's agreement not to file a general rate increase until March 1 of 2016. Any further discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously, noting my oral statement.
On page 24 of the public meeting agenda, it is recommended that the Commission adopt all items appearing on page 24, as well as the first 2 items on page 25 through and including the 1307E Education Charge Reconciliation Statement involving the UGI Utilities, Inc. Electric Division.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
It is recommended that the Commission adopt the ALJ Janderberg's initial decision in the proceeding involving Frank Melfi III versus Philadelphia Gas Works, noting the joint statement of Commissioners Brown and Commissioner Cawley.
So moved.
Second.
Like to recognize Commissioner Brown for purposes of the joint statement with Commissioner Cawley. Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The statement will be submitted for the record, but I would like to highlight the following. The ALJ in this case correctly recognized that the Commission lacks subject matter jurisdiction over municipal liens. The ALJ also concluded that the Landlord Cooperation Program is essentially a contract for private services that supplement the public utility services provided by PGW, and therefore the Commission has no jurisdiction over the program. We agree that the Commission lacks subject matter jurisdiction over municipal liens, but we disagree with the ALJ's private contract theory because the features of the Landlord Cooperation Program are so intertwined with PGW's provisions of public utility service. Moreover, we believe that the program, although voluntarily provided by PGW, falls within the ambit of Section 1501 of the Public Utility Code, which requires public utilities to provide reasonable service. That being said, we agree with the dismissal of this matter based on the fact that Mr. Melfi's complaint did not clearly allege any problem over which the Commission has jurisdiction, for example, poor customer service on PGW's part. However, given the numerous complaints filed by landlords regarding enrollment in the Landlord Cooperation Program, we strongly encourage PGW to review its program's enrollment process to ensure that it is user-friendly. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Any further discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0, noting the joint statement of Commissioner Cawley and Commissioner Brown.
That concludes the presentation of regular agenda items. Turning now to the carry-in agenda. It is recommended that the Commission adopt, on behalf of the Office of Special Assistance, the first two items appearing on page 1 of the carry-in through and including the recommendation pertaining to Duquesne's final smart meter procurement and installation plan.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
With regard to the PECO Energy Company Electric Division cap shopping proceeding, there is the motion of Commissioner Whitmer as well as the statement of Commissioner Brown and Commissioner Cawley.
I'd like to recognize Commissioner Whitmer for purposes of her motion. Commissioner Whitmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I would like my motion entered into the record as if I'd read it in its entirety. Before the Commission today for consideration is the petition of PECO Energy for approval of its cap shopping plan. Through today's action, PECO's cap shopping plan is approved in part and denied in part. As a follow-up to my motion dated September 27th of last year, I enthusiastically support the changes adopted here today to place PECO's cap customers on a path to full participation in the Commonwealth's retail electricity market as required by the Electric Competition Act and as already occurs in First Energy Company service territories and PPL service territories. By rejecting the limitation on cap offers to be lower than PECO's price to compare, by allowing electric generation suppliers to recoup incentives or institute a termination fee if cap customers cancel a contract during its term, and by opening up PECO's standard offer program to cap customers, these consumers will finally be able to freely shop for the best deal to meet their individual needs, thus realizing the benefits the market approach can provide while still maintaining the very important consumer protections afforded to cap customers. Although I agree with the vast majority of the order, there is one modification I propose. While I acknowledge the importance of regular reporting for the cap shopping plan in order to monitor the program's effectiveness, I believe it would be more efficient for PECO, not the EGSs, to compile these reports, because much of the information is already captured in PECO's billing system or is already in PECO's possession. In addition, as part of the reporting, PECO should not only track retail electric prices paid by cap customers, but also track any additional benefits or services or incentives that EGSs are providing to cap customers that are not otherwise captured in PECO's billing process. Examples could include home energy audits, smart thermostats, cash bonuses, dual fuel offers, or other types of incentives. Participating EGSs will, of course, have to provide PECO a description of benefits by month and by account number, so that PECO can include this information when they're compiling their cap shopping plan report. It is unquestionably clear that this information is of a sensitive nature, and therefore PECO must keep this information confidential. PECO should also be allowed to recover reasonable costs associated with compiling the reports. I'm pleased to see the Commission open the power of Pennsylvania's robust retail electricity market to all customers in PECO's service territory and remove the stigma that cap customers are somehow unable to make informed decisions regarding their electricity provider and their electricity needs. I look forward to reviewing the results of removing these hurdles for CAP customers so they can freely shop within the PECO service territory. Therefore, I move that the petition of PECO Energy Company for approval of its Customer Assistance Program shopping plan is approved in part and denied in part, and that the Office of Special Assistance prepare an opinion and order consistent with this motion. Thank you.
Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Would now like to recognize Commissioner Cawley for purposes of a statement here this morning. Commissioner Cawley.
Thank you, Chairman. Pursuant to this order, customers participating in PECO's Customer Assistance Plan will be able to avail themselves of opportunities to shop for lower priced and more stable priced electricity supply service provided by alternative electric generation suppliers, much like existing non-CAP customers do today. I'd like to emphasize that with this Commission's authorization for EGS participation in this segment of the market, that social responsibility comes with that participation by EGSs. What do I mean by that? Well, I believe that the EGSs should be very mindful of this responsibility, which is to ensure that their participation plays a very constructive role, helping these customers achieve more affordable electricity supply and other more affordable services. If they do not have such intentions, I strongly advise the EGSs not to register to provide service for this customer segment. And you can be certain that the Commission will be monitoring these competitive market offers and supply prices very closely.
Thank you, Commissioner Cawley. And I'd like to associate myself with your statement, would simply add that as a RESA community, and to your point about social responsibility, that these suppliers carry out a due diligence and a willingness to, one, not only educate these customers, but more importantly, apply good business ethics when they're out there recruiting these customers to sign up. And I will assure you, as the five of us all agree, our Office of Competitive Markets Oversight is out there. We will monitor these situations when they come up, where we have cases of abuse, slamming or cramming of a customer. And I'm proud to say that this commission has been very committed in taking the needed steps to correct any supplier that technically has violated our rules here at the commission. So I commend you for your statement here this morning, and I'm proud to associate myself with it. I'd also like to now recognize Commissioner Brown for purposes of her statement. Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am also supportive of availing CAP customers in the PECO territory the opportunity to enroll with an electric generation supplier. As well, I believe affordability is of paramount concern for CAP customers. The proposal by PECO to place a ceiling on EGS offers to CAP customers appropriately provides measures to maintain, at a minimum, the current level of affordability experienced by CAP customers. PECO has a significantly larger CAP customer base and consequently more expensive gross costs than all other electric distribution companies in the Commonwealth. A potential result under PECO's current CAP structure of not placing a ceiling on the prices that EGSs can charge CAP customers is that of the overall cost of PECO's CAP program will rise. Those increased costs will be borne by the residential class as a whole. I believe that the price ceiling proposed by PECO justly maintains affordability for CAP participants. Further, I believe that the price ceiling proposed by PECO represents a prudent policy to ensure that PECO's CAP program costs do not significantly increase. As such, even though I concur in most of this case, I do want to dissent in that part.
So noted. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, again, we've already voted on Commissioner Whitmer's motion. It passed 5-0, and we're noting the statements of Commissioner Cawley, which I associated myself with, and noting Commissioner Brown's statement with a partial dissent. Did I hear that correctly? Yes. Okay. So noted for the record here this morning.
Continuing with the presentation of public meeting agenda items on the carrying agenda, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the recommendation on behalf of the Office of Special Assistance in the proceeding involving Kenneth Triber versus Penelec.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, that concludes the presentation of agenda items.
I believe we're ready to adjourn the public meeting, but we will come back here with a very special presentation here this morning. On that note, we're adjourned.